What's going on, guys? In today's video, I'm going to be rating the Star Wars movies from the worst to the best. This is Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. There were many reasons I didn't like this movie. The main two, though, are because of the cheesy romance between Anakin and Padme and how they go from constant planet to planet, loving each other, and just the cheesiness of the lines and the acting. And the second reason is because the main enemy in this movie, Count Dooku, was not introduced until about halfway through the movie. I didn't like that, and it was a fun ending sequence with them fighting. The fact that 3 Jedi couldn't defeat him was a little bit unsatisfying. This is going to be Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Now, I did enjoy this movie because of the comedy of Jar Jar Binks, but I didn't like the young Anakin very much in the pod racing. I thought it was very anticlimactic in the middle of this war between the Sith and the Jedi. But I thought that the ending sequence was Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan versus Darth Maul. But I also like Count Dooku. I didn't like how Darth Maul wasn't in the movie. You know, he's the main bad guy, the guy with a double lightsaber that goes two ways. But, you know, he wasn't in the movie much, and it was kind of unsatisfying to see him in the movie once. Coming in ninth place is going to be Episode 8, The Last Jedi. Now, to me, for two reasons this movie was bad, and that is two people, and that is Admiral Holdo, who was the leader of the rebels for 25 minutes of the Star Wars saga, and then she ran a plane into an First Order Star Destroyer to save the rebels. That was just a bad sidetrack where she locked Poe up and zapped him, and I just didn't like it because I enjoy Poe as a character, and to see him go down to Admiral Holdo was just unsatisfying. The love-hate relationship between Rey and Kylo Ren starts in this movie, and I cannot stand it. The two Star Wars enemies, for the first time, two guys against each other, have a love-hate relationship, and that is not Star Wars. That is not what they do. And the third reason is because of Rose. She saves Finn at the end, but Finn could have saved all of them and killed the cannon while maybe killing himself, but Rose puts both of them in jeopardy and doesn't kill the cannon. So to me, that was a terrible decision by the filmers to make that happen. Coming in 8th place is going to be Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. Now, to me, two moments in the movie make this movie not worse on my list, and that's the fight between Anakin and Obi-Wan and the fight between the Emperor and Yoda. Those two lightsaber fights are iconic. They're the best two in the Star Wars films because they're so fast-paced and enjoyable to watch. But Padme crying for half the movie and seeing how blind the Jedi are and not figuring out that the Chancellor is the Sith, it was kind of unsatisfying and kind of dumb watching the movie for the first half until those fight scenes at the end. Coming in 7th place is going to be Star Wars Episode 9, Rise of Skywalker. To me, this movie was a huge disappointment because I was so excited for the final one, so excited for the huge battle at the end, and it was not very good. The reasons are because the twist that Palpatine is the grandfather of Rey is so annoying and head-scratching, because why would Disney do this when they already have a good plot? And when Palpatine shoots up lightning at the end, he kills the whole Rebel fleet. Way too overpowered. And to me, this movie just was a big letdown and disappointment. Coming in 6th place is going to be Star Wars Story. Now, I really enjoyed this movie as a different movie. It wasn't Sith versus Jedi. It was smugglers fulfilling their jobs and completing their jobs to gain money from different buyers. Now, I liked this movie because it was cool to see into the past of Han Solo and how he met Chewie, and it was really cool to see the Millennium Falcon. It was cool to see how that was introduced as a smuggler ship, and the Kessel Run was exciting to watch. So overall, it was a fun movie to watch with a couple of cool action sequences. Coming in 5th place, rounding up our top 5, is going to be Episode 7, Force Awakens. Now, I enjoyed this movie because it was a great introducing of the characters like Rey in the desert and Finn and Poe meeting on the Star Destroyer, Finn rescuing Poe. That was cool how they met, and then they crashed and they were split apart, and then they met up later in the movie to be friends again. And this is the best movie out of the newest 3 because there's no love-hate relationship between Rey and Kylo Ren. It's just hate. Rey calls him a monster in the woods, and they fight each other in the end, and Rey cuts him on the face. And it's just more satisfying than the other two movies, Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. Coming in fourth place on my list is going to be Rogue One. Now, I love this movie for one reason and one reason alone, and that is the Battle of Scarif, which is the best scene in all of Star Wars without lightsabers or the Force. But they perfected this scene with none of that, with just guns, grenade, hiding behind cover, and the sacrifices by Blind Guy, Baze Malbus, and Cassian and Jyn are heroic, and it's fun to see a different ending with the good guys losing, but at the same time winning by getting the plans to Leia. Coming in third place is gonna be Episode 4, A New Hope. Now this one would be second on my list, but it gets off to a slow start with the guy in the desert, C-3PO, and R2-D2. Now, until they meet Ben Kenobi and get on the Millennium Falcon with Han, it is a slow start, but once they get on the Millennium Falcon, that is when Star Wars kicks off for me. That is when it becomes epic and super fun to watch, and the constant bickering between Han and Leia and Luke is awesome. This movie is great. How Luke used the Force, not the scanner, to destroy the Death Star from his X-Wing cockpilot in the end. And it was just it was a cool final scene with Vader trying to track him down in a ship, not with a lightsaber. Coming in second place, our runner-up is going to be Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. Now, like A New Hope, it gets off to a slower start, but it's not as slow, and that's why it's ahead of it. But that's why it's also not first. It was first on my list, but once I watched it again, the slow start with Jabba at Jabba's palace until they get on the desert skiff and the Great Pit of Carkoon. But once it gets to the Battle of Endor and to the sky fight over next to the Death Star over Endor is awesome, and obviously the iconic fight between Luke and Vader, Vader ends up saving Luke by destroying the Emperor. Coming in first place, though, the best Star Wars movie is gonna be Episode 5, Empire Strikes Back. And unlike the two original movies, this one gets off to a quick start. It gets right to the point with the Battle of Hoth and the snow scene and the iconic moments of Luke knocking down the four-legged walkers with the wires and his lightsaber. And he kind of becomes a Jedi in this movie. He gets trained by Yoda. And obviously Han and Leia, their romance starts in this movie, and it's very fun to see all of them argue, and Leia and Han both not like Lando, but for some reason they stick with him. That's an interesting part of the movie. But the fight scene between Luke and Vader at the end is iconic, and to me, just the best Star Wars movie because it's constant action. Just to me, so many great scenes from this movie add up to be the best Star Wars movie. That is my list. Obviously, my list isn't the best list. It's just my opinion of these movies. But that is all for today's video. Comment down below what you think is the best Star Wars movie. And that is it for today's video.